Hi there. So, you might not remember, but in my last installment of Retail Chronicles, where I talked about my experience working at GameStop, I said that there was a possibility of there being a part two, but I just wasn't sure at the time of recording. But since then, I've remembered another handful of stories. I've put them all down here in some bullet points. So I think I've garnered enough stories to suffice for a part two. So here is the second episode of Retail Chronicles, focusing on my time at the most infamous video game store in the world. First though, if you enjoy what I do, you enjoy these videos, if you have the means to and you would like to, you can support the channel through Buy Me a Coffee. You can either sign up for a $1 monthly donation or do a one-time donation. You can also support me by signing up for Swagbucks using my referral link in the description. Swagbucks is just a nice way to get some extra money through things like cashback for online purchases, taking surveys, playing games, things like that. If you earn 300 Swagbucks within your first month after signing up with my link, I get 300 points as well. Plus, I get the equivalent of 10% of your earnings so long as you have an active account. This isn't sponsored or anything, just Swagbucks is one of those things that when I was really broke, helped keep gas in my car and food in my fridge. Thank you, now let's talk about GameStop. So the two things I'm really going to be focusing on here are talking about customers and a little bit of the daily work, because I have only a handful of stories here. It's going to be shorter than the first episode, at least I hope. But yeah, it's going to be focusing mainly on dealing with customers and regular daily tasks. So the first one that came to my mind was there was a kid who came in and he wanted to trade in an Xbox One and his games and use the funds to get either an Xbox Series S or an X. I couldn't remember which one. But he trades them in, and the thing though is he trades them in separately. He trades the games in first asking for cash and then trades in the console for store credit. And he asked me, oh, will this cover the cost of that? And I don't know at the top of my head, so I'm like, it probably will. We'll just have to see, though. I'm not quite sure, but it's other people have done it, so maybe. But the problem is, though, is that when he did this, the combined store credit for the console and the cash from the games didn't cover a new console. Granted, he also wanted to trade in a headset, which might have helped, but for some reason or another, I think it was probably because of things with like COVID. We weren't taking in headsets at that time, even though we were taking Apple AirPods for some reason, which are grosser, but whatever. So when this happened, I had to give the poor kid his console back, but I couldn't give the games back since those were already processed as cash sales. I wouldn't be able to if he did store credit either, and it was already processed, but at least if we did them together, then we could have seen, hey, it's not going to work, then you would have gotten it all back. So, I honestly felt bad, the kid, yeah, he still has his console and everything, but he's going home with like six less games that he's either going to have to re-buy to play with his friends or just live without having them until he can actually get a Series S or a Series X. And that sucks. uh, so I don't understand why he didn't just trade them in together. Maybe he figured, he would use the cash for like something different. I don't know. But he would have just been better off trading them in together, because then it might have actually covered the cost, if not at least most of the cost of of at least a Series S, because those are cheaper. He had like a weird niche limited edition console too. I think it was like Gears of War or Metal Gear, something like that in that vein. Maybe even Cyberpunk. I can't remember exactly, but it was one of those three, I think. And it made it hard to actually like find the right system entry. Like I couldn't find the specific console, or at least if I did, it took me a little while after having to sift through all these different results in the search on the register. This one is kind of in the same vein as some of the other really bitchy customers. Not as bad, but still like kind of like, why are you like this, man? What's your problem? So there was a semi-regular customer there, and I guess, he was on all right terms with like my manager and some of the other people, but he was kind of a dick to me. I don't know why, but he was just kind of a dick to me. I mean, okay, granted, he did hear me complaining about something on a day he was coming in. Like, I was trying to like vacuum or something like that because we closed in like an hour, maybe a half hour. So I'm like, okay, I'll get this stuff done. But then people keep coming in. It's like he came in right when I was about to do it. Then he left for something. I started it, and then like maybe a minute after I start, I see him coming in, and I'm like, I was vocal with it, so that was ultimately my downfall there. But it's still just it's customers coming in the second you try to do cleaning things that kind of. It's not like I was just wiping down shelves or anything. I was vacuuming. It's loud. It impedes people's ability to shop sometimes and do transactions. Um, but still, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have been so vocal about it, but also maybe just don't be annoying customers. Regardless, though. So after that, he was shopping around for a bit, and I was just having to hang out by the registers. And then I think he was asking about like what games are good, and he asked me what I play, and I told him at the time, I had an Xbox One and some older consoles. So like I have a GameCube and an N64 and NES. And his response, rather than something like, "Oh man, well that I'm sorry you don't have like the new consoles. That kind of sucks." Or like, "Oh, those are cool, man. What are your favorite games on those?" It's just, "Well, why the hell are you working here then? Like, why the fuck do you ask me that?" Like, dude, it was a matter of I needed a second job fast because substituting did not pay the bills very well, and freelancing was so touch and go. And this was the first place to offer me a job, so I'm like, okay, fuck it, I'll take it. And B, I couldn't afford at the time to have multiple newer consoles. I got lucky with the Xbox One that I have. One of my mom's coworkers back in like 2017 was selling it because their son, I think, wanted a PS4, and I don't know the story exactly, but it was probably something like he wanted a PS4 or a Wii U, and she said, well, you can either have one or the other. So I got an Xbox One with like 4 games and a controller for like $100. That's a fucking steal, dude. But I got lucky with that. Prior to that, the newest console that I had was a Wii. So, it's a matter of like I couldn't afford newer consoles at the time. Since then, I have bought a 2DS XL and a PS4 a couple years ago. So my finances are a little better, but that was also prior to, having a bunch of loan payments and stuff come up. Like I have a car payment now and stuff. So yeah, it was a different situation. But that he was such a dick about the fact that I just wasn't sure exactly, like, oh, I mean, I've heard some of these are good, but I don't have a PS4 or a PS5 or a Switch or anything, So it's like, dude, what do you want from me? I'm just trying to do my job the best I can. You don't need to be a dick. This next one is a lesson for everybody who goes shopping anywhere, regardless of if it's a video game store or a grocery store or a clothing store, anything like that. Read the promotional signs carefully. Please, it's imperative that you do this because you're gonna avoid a bunch of bullshit. So we were working, and and the store was doing like a buy two get one deal, something like that. And this one guy comes in and he wanted to buy, I think he wanted 2 Pokemon games on Switch and then some other one. I can't remember what it was. And granted, a lot of us think this way anyway, but that's why you actually read the signs to see what the terms are. He thought that he would get the most expensive Pokemon game for free. I think it was either the Diamond remake or it was either Sword or Shield or the Diamond remake, one of those ones. I don't know. I don't remember exactly, but how it works in the majority of these cases, no matter what the store is that the cheapest item that you pick is the one that you get for free or the one that you get half off, whatever it is. Unless it's specifically just buy one, get anything half off or free, which usually it's never the case. It's always the cheaper one is the one that's discounted or free. And after bringing that up, he fought with me a little bit on it. I'm like, no, dude, like you read the sign here. But after that, he decided he didn't want any of them. He just kind of was like, all right, well, fuck this then, and left. Which partially, yeah, I get it, because games are expensive, but you also want to be able to play the ones you like. But also, reading comprehension, dude. just read the signs. I know the print can be tiny and that's annoying, but just read the terms. You'll avoid headache, and I will avoid headache. So the final bit, at least I'm sure I can remember other stuff if I really think, but this is the last bit of customer stuff that I can remember at this time, is that an older lady bought multiple sets of PlayStation Move controllers. Now I know there's a story in the first episode about an old lady buying PS Move controllers, getting the wrong ones for some reason, and then just being a total bitch about it. But this lady was actually nice, but she bought multiple sets and apparently none of them worked. She bought one set, returned it a couple days later, bought another set, returned it, etc. That happened like 3 or 4 times, and I think she tried both PS3 and PS4 ones. Um, but within a I don't know what the problem was. I don't know if they were all just defective controllers. Probably not, honestly. But when she returned them, because she said they didn't work, we had to mark them as defective and then send them off to the warehouse so they could be repaired. So honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if at least like mechanically, electronically, there was nothing wrong with the controllers, and maybe there was something wrong with her connection, her console, etc. I could be wrong, but you can't go through 8 controllers and have them end up all not working and have there not be something wrong on your end as well, typically. But within a few days, when each set came back, they went from being like in okay to good shape, both the used ones, I mean, and even she bought like a couple new sets, I think. Every time they came back, they looked like they were in a fucking smoker's house, untouched for like 2 years. Like, okay, the white ball normally is like white, like just a plain white. When she brought them in, they were like weirdly like brown and gross and shit. It's like, how did they get that dirty in 2 days? So even if it was just a matter of like, oh, I don't like how these controllers feel, I would have had to mark them as defective anyway so they can fucking deep clean them and put the new rubber bulb on there. I don't get it. Like, she was a nice lady. She was very cooperative about stuff and understanding. But how did this shit get dirty so fast? I That's the one thing that escapes me. Like, how even the brand new ones, how the fuck? I don't know. As I said, she was a nice lady, very cooperative, understanding about the whole dilemma, but just having to deal with that basically like 3 or 4 times in a week was, just a little annoying, just a little bit irritating. All right, so like I said, I only had a handful of customer stories, and I'm only going to have a couple everyday work stories as well. But it's still, regardless, it's kind of a mess. So shifting over to everyday work, sometimes we had to drive to other stores for whatever reason because they had something that a customer wanted and we had to go pick them up from there, or the customer wasn't able to go to drive to the other store, so we went and picked it up like ahead of time, stuff like that. Or just because we're missing inventory and they had extra, we're like, hey, yeah, we'll transfer you to white Xbox controllers, we'll transfer you 2 copies of Call of Duty Vanguard or something. And we did get reimbursed for mileage, which in theory is nice. But I'm pretty sure it was only like 35 cents per the mile driven. Now, granted, this is back and forth also. It's not like you're only paid on the way there or only paid on the way back, etc. So that is kind of nice, but again, 35 cents per mile. Maybe it's a little more and I'm just not remembering, but I think at max it was like 60 cents. It was not a lot per mile. And this applied to also dropping out. Like, if you had to go drop off a deposit, which, side tangent, and where I was, literally like 2 buildings down, if not 2 storefronts, whatever, there was a fucking bank. But instead, we had to do our deposits at a bank that was like a mile and a half down the road, which kind of was just inconvenient. Like, why? And I understand contracts, whatever. GameStop had a contract with this particular bank. So yeah, we had to go to that one. But why would they not work something out where we can just go to the one that's 2 doors down? I'm not getting much extra money for driving that mile and a half down the road anyway, so what the fuck's the point? But yeah, this whatever money we got per mileage was a pittance. It was nothing. It barely gave an actual boost to the paycheck unless you did this a lot, and it really didn't cover the cost of gas all that well. I think the biggest boost I saw in a paycheck was when I did it like 3 or 4 times in a week, and I got maybe, I don't know, $15 extra in my paycheck. Um, but I also was at the time driving a car that had like close to, if not already had 200,000 miles on it. And how old is it at that time? Probably 16 years old with that much mileage on it. Yeah, that didn't help either. I think I mentioned in the first episode that the assistant manager who worked there when I started left. I think I was there for like 6 months and he left around that point. And I actually had it in my head. I was thinking for a short while to actually look into applying for this assistant manager position, you know? I mean, it wouldn't be ideal, but I figured, I would have been guaranteed, I think, at least like 30 or 35 hours a week, and I would have gotten a raise. I don't know how big, maybe by like $2 or $3. And I mean, I did have a year and a half's experience as an assistant manager from my time working at Tuesday Mornings. So, hey, why not me? Um, but it turned out that the store I was working at was one that actually wasn't supposed to have an assistant manager for whatever reason, like because of the traffic that it gets or size of the store, something like that. It was some probably stupid bullshit like that. But the other guy was apparently just kind of grandfathered in, as far as I know. Like he was already promoted or hired as assistant manager before this was made known, so they were just kind of stuck with him until he quit or was fired, whatever. So, that screwed up that fucking plan for me. And granted, again, I didn't really want the promotion because I didn't want to be working full time in a shitty retail environment, but it would have helped me stay afloat a little better for the time being. It would have made it so that when I did leave, I wouldn't be broke as shit. Because between I left GameStop. I worked at a campground as a groundskeeper for like 3 weeks, and then I got the job that I have now. But when I got that job, I didn't get paid just because of some stupid bullshit, like the timing of when I was brought on. I didn't get paid for another like week and a half, 2 weeks, and that groundskeeper money was, by the time actually got my check, my first paycheck, that groundskeeper money was gone. The day that my first check came in the mail, I had spent my last like $6 to put gas in my tank or get like a case of water, something like that. So, I mean, it was a huge relief when I got that check. But yeah, if I had gotten the full time assistant manager job, maybe I would have at least had another like couple $100 sitting around before I got that next paycheck. I mean, I can't say for sure, but it probably would have helped me rather than being stuck with, the 15 to 20 hours a week and the subbing. And of course, when I ended up leaving GameStop, that was during the summer, so school was out. I couldn't fall back on subbing and have something in the meantime. That's why I went to that groundskeeping job, which was not terrible, but it was a seasonal job. So I think it lasted until like the end of September. So within another like 2 or 3 months, I would have just been in the same position as when I left GameStop. So like I said, yeah, I didn't really want the promotion, but it still would have helped me out in some form. So that is about everything that I had for episode 2 of my experience working at GameStop. In terms of the Retail Chronicles series, I don't know if there's going to be another one. I could maybe talk about when I worked at McDonald's, or maybe just see if I can remember any little bits and pieces from Tuesday Morning, GameStop, McDonald's, etc., and maybe do like one final big episode talking about stories from some of these other jobs I've had, even Toys R Us if I can remember anything. But in terms of the future of this series, I'm not really sure where I can go after this, because after GameStop and then working as a groundskeeper for 3 weeks, I've had the job that I've had for the last 2.5 years up to now. And I actually like that job. I don't really have a lot of complaints, and even then, I'm not gonna complain about a job while I work at it. If I did have any big complaints, that'd be a problem. But I don't know where I can go from this. I'm like I said, I might be able to kind of take some bits and pieces from my time at Tuesday Morning that I forgot to talk about, GameStop, Toys R Us, McDonald's if I decide to do that maybe, and do like one big finale. But I don't really know if I can do another episode. Like I might be able to do a dedicated episode about McDonald's and then do, like I said, that one finale with all the little tidbits. But we'll have to see. We will have to see. I don't know if anybody watching has seen my latest community post or one of my newer ones, but I am starting to do an independent study soon to start getting master's credits. So my time is going to be a little more. It's not going to monopolize my time, of course, like when I was a full time student. But it is gonna be a little more of my main focus besides my other like big writing projects. It's going to be my writing projects that are outside of YouTube, and this independent study are going to be my two big main focuses. That being said, though, as my community post said, I do plan on at least putting together some short videos that are 5 minutes long or less, just so that I'm still putting something out, and hopefully it can be of quality. Um, I think my next decent length video is either going to be another achievements of socialism video of a certain socialist country or country striving for socialism, another list video like I've done the last few videos about like the socialists you've never heard of or famous people who are socialists, or it's going to actually be a look at a socialist country more in depth than just a list video. But we'll have to see. We'll see. I have a few other ideas besides that in the pipeline that I've been writing for, but we'll see how things go. My name is Jimmy. Thank you for watching, and free Palestine.